canvas, or you can create your own. I've already created a lot. I kind of just created a lot every single time, which leaves a large history of the exact same thing. Um, but the little plus sign at the top right here is your create new. And on Procreate, on the one I have and the iPad that I have, the max size is 8,000 by 8,000. Still better than 8K, so that's kind of nice. The thing is with however many times you do, or however big the canvas is, the less layers you have to work with. So an 8,000 by 8,000 on this version has only 4 layers to work with, which is doable. It's more difficult, but it's doable. And I've been doing that for most commissions, just so that way you know, it looks the best that it humanly possibly can, and I can work around only using 4 layers. Uh, but just for practice on this one, we're going to use a 4,000 by 4,000, which has 27 layers, if I do remember correctly. But we'll just click that one. So we'll go to this. Also, when you're creating a new one, you can click the plus, like the black plus sign. There's a options down throughout the thing on the file. You can even tell it no background. So that way it comes in as just a blank canvas. There is literally nothing there for color. And then basically after that, if you wanted to make like a sticker, actually I'll show that anyway, just for fun. So you can type in your custom pixel counts right there. You can do, have some edits on stuff there. I heard that DPI was basically about how much detail is going to be on the pixels themselves. So I heard 300 was a good one. So I put it at 300. I don't really know much about it, but DPI I put at 300. And then canvas properties. This is where you can change background hidden. So you just click background hidden on, and then you click create, and then you have another, just like that. You have a background that will have nothing there. And then, for instance, if you wanted to make a watermark, you can. I normally use the luminescence pen, and then it doesn't really matter. You can do whatever color you want, and then you just, and then your size and stuff is over here. So you just turn that up to higher size. Undo button underneath, opacity right here, and there we go. Then you can just write out your watermark, just like that. And then from there, you would then share and save it as a PNG. If you save it as a PNG, it will keep the background transparent. So then literally the only thing you get is your watermark. And then that's this image saved for later. And that's how you make backgrounds clear. Let's see here. Alright, and then if you have this, I will show you how to do a nice background. So I normally start with black. Doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be whatever you want, but I use heavily luminescence brushes and elements and organic and water generally, as far as the brush sets that I use. But my favorite for sky is nebula generally, so that one you want to make a lot bigger, and you can just set it on something simple like purple, and then just kind of gently add it in like that. And then light leak, that's another fun one. That's pretty small. You can up that. Just bring up some color in certain areas. That opacity back up. There you go. And then let's say you wanted to add, like, I don't know, lightning or something. You'll do blue. The first thing you'll do is actually start with airbrush. Okay, there's that. Actually, Actually, no, I lied. I like using in elements the water one. It is chaotic enough that it works really well for lightning. And then from there, then you can go to like something like an airbrush. Kind of brighten up around your lines here. I like that. And that doesn't look ideal, but what you can do is do light pen. It's very bright. One cool thing with the Apple Pencil is that the more you press down, it'll basically make it bigger and darken the opacity. So just like that, you start off soft and then push on it more, and you can basically control your pen. So it means you don't have to mess around with like the size of it as much. So just like that, holds down, gives it a nice taper, so you can see that it goes to a point. And then just like that. And just like that. It's very simple. It's not normally really how lightning goes, but it looks sick. I think it looks good. So that's a good way of doing like something like lightning. You can do there's clouds. Normally what I'll do is I'll start with black, make them nice and big, and you just kind of want to hard press these ones in, because these are going to be your depth texturing on clouds. And in theory, you'd want to actually probably have this underneath the lightning layer, but you can do some as well over the top. Makes it, yeah, that looks fine. Then kind of light press there. Still holds the color of the sky, but does that. And then do your hard press white over the top. I'd say more like medium pressing. You don't have to. There you go. Just like that. And then on like areas where like technically this bit of lightning would be outside of that bit of cloud, so you'd want to go back to your old color and re-brighten that area right there. And of course you can do a cleaner job than what I just did, and to avoid all that, you can just mess with the layers and keep everything on its own separate area, because if you have like a 4000 by 4000, you have plenty of layers to work with, because you can just keep adding all the way up to like 27. So you have plenty to work with. It's going to come out looking good. And I'll show you a little bit of how I do water. Under elements, you would go to water, or oceans, I should say. And then this color should actually work pretty well. You want to up the size. And then it will be specific on which way the brush shows. So we'll see. You do kind of a light press. Just back and forth, because you don't want it to show too aggressively yet. And just like that, that's first layer. You can go a little bit brighter. And just kind of hard press it in certain areas to give it the ripple effect. It's a very simple way of doing water. And then depending on, like, let's say the lightning you got there, if you want that to kind of reflect in there, you can do, I'm not sure if this would look good, but we'll see. That's really small. No, you'd want something more like an airbrush. Let's see, airbrushing. There you go. So it kind of brightens up the lake a little bit right there. And then you can even do like some luminescence, light, the light leak, and then do some brightening right there. And kind of helps give it a little bit of reflection of the lightning. And then honestly, one of the best ways for rain is just they have a ton of brushes and elements here. You got like clouds, crystals, hard rain, driven snow, water, flames, smoke, all of which are very useful. I've used all of them before. Hard rain, I love it. This one, if you like zoom in here, you can just see it kind of just does a very light look there, and you can kind of just fog up. Just like that. Just like that, you have some rain. And when they zoom in, they can actually see like it looks like rain. I've even used, I think this is the one. Brighten it up a little bit, and then actually we'll do so like if you wanted to be more, have a few more here and there, you can do some more precise ones. But it would take a lot of time, but it does help bring out the texture of it all. And then you can, of course, all the way down at the water, do like little splooshes. So that's one way of doing rain, although I'd suggest maybe, I don't know, the way I did it, it looks very, very like human hand drawn. It doesn't look very natural, so I would try and maybe do probably honestly just more of this. I'd maybe even do like a different color first and then another color to help brighten it up in certain areas. So yeah, doing exact like rain is pretty tough, but alright. Now for showing how to do all this stuff. Oh, here's another thing too. We want to do like a basic test of like a helmet to show kind of how to do some like texturing and temp creating. With this layer, you want to move this one down. You just hold it. If I can get it to work. Yeah, there we go. And you can just move this layer down, and then you move it, blink, right above your other layer, because it's all above. And then you can even click on the layer, and then here's all your tools here. and then you can tell it to merge down, and now it's all one image. So then if you want, you can just clear it. You can click the little square, turn it invisible. You can do whatever. You can even name the layers. I don't name my layers. That takes a while. But there's all sorts of things you can do, and highly suggest testing them, seeing what they can do, and then just hitting the undo button. That's honestly the best way to learn. And then we'll go to layer 2. You want to make sure it's selected, and then you can click the add button here. You can insert a photo. We'll just click basic helmet real quick. So this is like a random 3D print helmet off of online somewhere. And for instance, if you wanted to use this image for creating a helmet, you can cut it out by using the ribbon tool here at the top here, and then you click the remove button down at the bottom. And normally I just freehand it. There are sometimes you can do automatic, but normally it's not really a good crop at all. So for instance, we'll just do a small section here. So for instance, if you wanted to do the whole helmet, you'd have to go around the whole thing, but you can just click here, and that starts your cut. And then you can click here, and that'll basically move a line of where it's going to cut. And now when I'm going around curves, I just kind of do gentle taps to get a curvature, rather than trying to draw the curvature. Does not always go too well. And then you just can click and click, and that is all cut out. Now if you wanted to do the whole thing, you would have to do the whole helmet. And then you click the arrow again, and now, just like that, you have what would be on this part, the helmet, and then up here would be, all this would be the trimming. So then you can then, just like that, you would have your whole helmet cut out. Now I will show a few things. But to start doing any kind of texturing or anything like that, you would go to your layer above it, and then tell it the tool here is clipping mask. Once you clipping mask it, anything you draw on layer 3 is going to only show up on anything on layer 2. So for instance, texturing wise, if you wanted to use, I normally start with mud or rust, and then you just go to black, and then very simply adding texture. And then the harder you press, the more it's going to be aggressive. And then I go to randomize where. Oh, that's quite large. I think size 4. Yeah, that looks better. And just like that, you got some good texture from that. And then from there, I normally do some airbrush grain spots, but I use this for dirt, so I have a few saved colors here. Oh, that is also very large. We will bring this size very much so down. There we go. And just add a little bit of tone to it, a little bit of dirt and grime. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I then go to shading. And so with this one, you always want to focus on exactly where your light source is. So for instance, on this helmet, dark side is on the left, light side is on the right, but this will all depend on where you actually put your light source. In this case, mine more or less is the lightning, so it's going to be towards the right, which means anything on the left side should be shaded more. So in this case, the helmet would technically be correct in that lighting. But normally, of course, because this is like a cheek piece, you would then shade the top. And just like that, and then you do change it to white, and you brighten up the other area. And that would be like the cheek insert. That would pretty much be how that should look. It's very basic, but that would work. I will show as well a little guide to making like a quick template over something, because I'll use a lot of either like Black Series action figures, or I have a few apps as well that like have mannequins that I can pose, because it saves me a lot of time, because it's really easy just to add something over it if you can position something properly. Especially tricky things like hands or faces even. It's just, I have an app where I can literally customize and create a 3D image of a face, which helps a lot. But yeah, so let's see here. We have the helmet. For right now, we're done with this, so we're just going to merge this layer down, and now that's all the same. And if you ever want, for instance, let's say you have layer 4, you have drawn something, just like that. You have something on layer 4, you've drawn something. This is like, for instance, let's say a ship or something, but you're like, dang, that's just in the wrong spot. This is going to conflict with my other layers. You can click the arrow and then move it around like a sticker. You could quite literally move it anywhere. And it will just grab anything on that entire layer. So just be careful with that. But it's really useful. Fun thing I discovered the other day. Alright, back to layer 2. You're going to add a layer and then tell it. Actually, no, this will be the template layer. Then we'll add another layer. So template layer will be 13. I normally use the brush Syrup in inking. Normally percent size is right about 2. And let's just say, what should we use to make a template? Actually, you know what? We'll just do like his top of his head. So we'll do trace line starting. And this is one of those ones where you really want to make sure you go across the whole thing and don't have any breaks in your line, because then if you try and bucket fill, it will not work. Also, let's say you have shaky hands and you cannot use, or you cannot draw a straight line for the life of you. Sometimes that happens. Actually, and it's annoying as hell. Procreate, if you do a line, and let's say you want it to be straight, you just hold down and it becomes straight. And then you can move it around. You can even let it go and then click edit line, and then you can edit the other side. All of which are very useful. We'll click undo, get it out of here. And then for instance, it'll also do that with shapes. So like this. Autocorrects to a usable shape. So it's a really useful tool for getting actually the proper shapes done. You can do the same thing with like squares, or make a rectangle. You'd have to actually draw more of a square first. And then circle. It'll autocorrect to, that, and then you can edit ellipse. You can move it to more of a circle. You know, you can do whatever. It's super useful. And that is actually how I do a lot of my shapes. Just like there, I messed that up a little bit. I'll do that. Just click erase. Go back into the inking. And then we'll connect this to... And this is generally how I do my helmets. Is I'll do one section at a time, just like this. And then I'll do a white fill. And you just ink drop it. And if you had more to do, you can hit continue filling and then continue just tapping where you want. But that is his forehead. All done. Except, we take care of the lines, the texturing, and all that. And with how you do that, you turn layer 14 and you tell it clipping mask. And then we go through that same process we did on the bit before. We'll do black. We'll start texturing. That is actually really large still. Oh, and we gotta remember, light is towards the right side, so we're going to darken up this left side a little bit more, do a little bit of pre-shading. And then randomize wear. Again, focusing on the left side being a little bit darker, still keeping good texture on the right. Airbrush, or not airbrush, dirt and grime. Just gonna add a little bit of browns. Doesn't look great at first, but we'll get there. Then here is the shading. Go to that. And this is why it doesn't really matter too much on the lines themselves. Because if you shade and lighten properly, all your trace lines are going to basically disappear, and then it will look somewhat lineless art. This brush head is a little bit big, so it started to pop through on the other side, and that's too dark. We're just going to undo that. We're going to drop this down a little bit, and so that way we're just shading on this side of the fin. And of course, there is this little dead pixel right here in this corner that can, that was messed up because of the trace. So you'll want to make sure that like those little corner spots get filled in. And just keep shading. And then naturally there's going to be a bit of shade underneath where the visor is. So you're going to shade down here. And that also then gets rid of that pesky lines. And then just naturally kind of darken it as you go. Don't worry about, shading too much, because you're basically just blending it all together to give it the depth of the story that's being told. And then to brighten it back up, you're going to turn to white, and then you're going to go here, and you're going to basically do the opposite. And then I normally, when I'm finishing brightening, I will then even take the light pen and I will make it right about there. And, well, actually that might be too big. And then just help clean off the edges of where it's going to be brightest. And then you can even add little reflections. If you wanted to be real fancy, you could add reflections of like blue instead of white, and do like a bit of like nebula. We'll turn the size way down, so it'd be usable for this helmet. You can turn it to blue, and then we'll see here. Oh yeah, there we go. Give it some prism colors in there to help reflect what's around it. Nope, that's too much. But yeah, basic, very simple. Helps bring out some of the color of that. And then, let's see here. Then just help shade that up a little bit because we don't need it. It doesn't look right. It's like you want to airbrush it just ever so slightly, just so that way it doesn't. Basically, just trying to hide the pixels of your lines, make it look cleaner. And layer's just about done. Normally the last touch I do is doing my scratches, I'll start with, I think, yeah, that one, scratches. I'll turn it to white, and then if you have the pencil towards the side, it'll do a really wide scratch like that. You just undo. If you tip down, it does the same thing. There we go. A little bit better. So you just kind of do a few scratches like this. Because also, in theory, all like the blast toy that the clones had is all manufactured white. Any bit of grime and anything, any scratch in it would then naturally bring up white, because that is what is underneath. And then you would then swap to black, do another deep scratch, or this one, turn the tone down a little bit, and then you just go inside, and it's a little too big still, so you'll do black. Helps give it a little bit of depth. You kind of want to try and get it in the middle as much as possible. And you can just finish off with a few like that. Oh, last one's very aggressive. There we go. That is how you do a bit of wear and tear on a helmet. I even like the mud one. I really like too for doing like blast marks, or like misses. You can continue on one spot and continue pressing down, adding a bit around here and there. Oh, I should mention, this in the weathering set, these are custom brushes that a friend made for me, or not for me, he made them for himself, and then was kind enough to share them with me and another homie. Yeah, so these are really useful. You can also do charcoals. Let's see here. Where'd it go? Yeah, here we go. You can use charcoals as well. You can use burnt tree. And then just kind of go around it loosely, just like that. And then darken in the center. And that'll give you more blast wear and tear. And then if you ever wanted to actually make it look like he had just been hit, you can always use, I like using the light pen. How I used to do it is actually literally do it manually, so you have to do like the airbrushing and then a thin inside. So light pen would be really easy, so you just go to a bright orange or red, and then you just do that. You just keep holding it down, and then it looks like it has a really red hot laser bolt that went through. And you turn it to white, and then you kind of go in the middle there, and then it looks like it's freshly burning. And then for funsies, you could do something like elements, go to smoke, it's already on white. Turn the size down. Oh, that's right. So, undo. We are on clipping masks. So what you want to do is go on to layer 4, which is on that other example layer, so it doesn't really matter too much. But the smoke then would come off just like that. So now it freshly looks very fresh on being hit. And then another way to do that is, for instance, if you don't have luminescence for some reason, or or doing it on a different app, you use soft blend. You go to probably the darkest tone. Wait, what? Okay, that's why. It is actually a massive brush. There we go. There we go. All right, so you have done like your black texturing to make it look like kind of worn and shot and carbon damaged and all that. And then you would just take the airbrush and start adding this around, just like this. And you brighten it a little bit. And you do that. And then brighten it again. Go in the middle. And you bring it up the palette a little bit, up to orange. And you do that in the middle. And then you bring it up again. Bring it up more towards yellow. And from here you might want to turn the size down. And do yellow in the middle like that. And then you just turn it to white. And turn the size down again. And do it in the middle just like that. And so from there it does the exact same thing as what that does, is just a little more steps. So that is how you do that. Basic armor and texturing and temping over an image or what have you, character model, and basic background creation. So hopefully that was helpful if you are new to Procreate, and hopefully shows you a lot of the tools you can use. I will go through. I think, if is there anything else that I really should go over for this video? I mean, I think that's fine. If you wanted to use it for, or if you wanted to like up the quality, so you're using something more like a 6,000 by 6,000 or 8,000 by 8,000, you're gonna only have 4 of these layers to work with. So as you go, you're gonna have to be merging your layers down. And for instance, you always want to start kind of top down. So you would, but any clipping mask layer you want to do first, because clipping mask, if you go to layer 14, if you click merge down, it's going to merge down perfectly on to that image. And then you can take layer 4, merge down, and then take it to your there, merge down, and then there you go. Now you would have 2 more layers to work with. So it's all a balance of getting one small thing done, merging it down to the next layer, and what have you. So yeah, basic background creation, really fun to play around with. There's a lot of brushes in here that are really useful. Honestly, the best thing to do is just play with it. Use the brushes, see what you can do, and if you don't like it, click the back button. You can keep clicking the back button as many times as you want, which is nice, unless the app crashes, then it will only remember when you start and you reboot. So yeah, luckily I have not had many crashes that have hindered me. Most of the time, if any crashes, it literally saves the work, because Procreate can be worked with offline, which is awesome. It saves me a lot of hassle of mistakes that can happen. So also just means that I can kind of do it whenever I want. Just the only hindrance is iPad battery life. If it starts to, when I'm working on a big project, it does take a lot of battery power to keep that project going, just because I've noticed as I do more of like the bigger projects, the battery life is not as much. When I was doing 4,000 by 4,000, I could sit down for 8 to 10 hours straight and just watch, a show while I'm working on art, and it would battery would hold up the whole time. Now it definitely does not do that as much now that I'm doing more bigger canvases, because I'm trying to give people better quality. So, but yeah, no, it's really nice. There is a lot of brushes to be used, and really just learning how to use them in a way that would fit your style, because no art is better than another. It's basically just trying to perfect what you want, which is, at the end of the day, we're never going to perfect what we want, but we strive for the best and we keep going. So this is what I've been learning on this app. A lot of these are very, very useful. I didn't even learn how to make my own stickers basically until like just a couple weeks ago. I discovered it by accident, because I accidentally clicked the arrowhead and then I could move something around, which actually worked perfectly because I was gonna block a ship that was in the background, but my clone was in front of it, and I was like, well, I did all that for nothing. But luckily, I bumped the arrow, and then I realized I could move it into a better location where you could see and appreciate the background and the clone trooper. So it worked out. But yeah, so that will end it for this. This is basically just how to get you started on uh, just creating an art project. Play around with the brushes, have fun, and